Hi, I'm Kelly Carlin, and welcome to George Carlin Way.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, Captain Joe here. Brian and I are in Harlem. We're on the east side, we're gonna get to the west side. We're on 121st Street on our way to the George Carlin Way dedication. Hopefully we'll see lots of fans there. And we're hungry. I got a pee-pee too, so we're gonna find a restroom soon.
So it's at 1 o'clock, you said?
Yeah, I think 1. The fuck that's fine, man. Nice, right? We made it. Alright, Brian and I walked through, I've forgotten, there's a really lovely park on 121st. We're now on West 121st and Morningside Drive, where we just saw the covered up George Carlin Way sign. We're a bit early as always, and I have to piss big time. Brian wants a cup of coffee. So we're gonna do that. It's a lovely area here in White Harlem. Get shot saying that shit, maybe. Fuck it, I'm joking. Anyway, hopefully we'll get some interviews today. If not, hopefully some very nice footage. More to come. Who are you, sir?
Hi, I'm Butch Denner. I'm the retired road manager for Levon Helm and the band.
Oh, that's from the show shirt then. All right.
The boss.
All right. Why are you here today?
George Carlin was a huge figure in the culture of my generation. When he came out as the hippy-dippy weatherman on TV, all us heads that were privately being hip and cool, we thought, we saw some guy on TV who was talking about what we were talking about. He was getting stoned and talking smack and being funny, and we all connected with George right away. So I came down here to honor him. His brother Patrick's a good friend of mine up in Woodstock, and me and Patrick and Levon Helm used to hang out and remember the good times. So where else would I be for George?
How long was your drive?
I drove an hour and 45 minutes from right outside of Woodstock in New Paltz, New York.
And you were given erroneous information about the bridge traffic?
Yeah, CBS, you know, give us 10 minutes, we'll give you the world. Well, they said it's an hour delay on the GW. I almost took a detour, but I believed in myself, and there was no traffic. We breezed right across the bridge. Typical media. Sorry.
Nice. Nah, it's all right, man. I'm independent media.
Cool. Well, I'm an organ donor recipient. I'm 8 years post-liver transplant.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I waited 8 years for it, and I saw my good brother, Richie Haywood from Little Feet, pass waiting for a transplant. But I saw Phil Lesh live and make more music because of an organ donor. So New York State is the worst state in the union for organ donation sign-ups. We're only 21%, and the nation average is 41%. So I'm always talking about organ donation because I'd be dead and buried 8 years if it wasn't for a generous family. Thank you, Frankie's family. So please sign up and be an organ donor. It saves lives, and you won't feel it because you'll be gone when we take them.
You don't need it no more.
Nah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Who are you, sir?
Patrick Carlin.
Hey.
You using that name now?
Yeah, I go with that.
It's a good name, I guess. Yeah. Kind of.
What are we doing today?
We're going to have the unveiling at 1 o'clock of George
Excellent.
Carlin Way.
Excellent.
And it's going to be temporarily up here on Morningside Drive, which is really nice. Where did you see the view up here?
It's right here.
It's a good view.
Yeah, oh
I've never
really?
been up here. I've never been here.
Okay, no, you've never been right up on this corner.
No.
You'll like it.
I've heard about it.
But dig it. It was going to be Amsterdam. And it's going back there after the construction is over, Rick.
Oh, is that right?
That's the only reason.
I was wondering why we were going up this
That's
way. I
the
heard it was
only
on
reason.
Amsterdam,
This is
right?
where it's actually going to happen today.
Son of a bitch.
Then they'll move the other one down.
Yeah.
And no harm, no foul.
Before we get to the crowd, let's finish this.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
I'm good.
Let's show a little
Well,
decorum.
good. He
I got
got
you
me. He got me. He got
Those Girl Scouts who set up the Girl Scout cookie
Wasn't that
stands.
beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, here's the one of the best thing. In 14 days, marijuana becomes legal in Washington, D.C.
Oh, how wonderful.
You can grow 6 plants. You can hold 2 ounces on your person.
I'd like a new meaning to Michelle Obama's home garden.
There's no medical. There's no like how to sell it or no promotion.
Randy Ferguson, how you doing,
Hey,
Pat?
how are you, bro?
How's everything?
Very
Good.
fine,
Good.
Randy.
Finally made it, huh?
Randy Ferguson.
Finally made it.
All-time buddy of George.
Oh yeah.
Like
Neighborhood his ears perked up.
Neighborhood guy. I'm so happy you got
I became a policeman, and I happen to be one of the cops that locked up Lenny Bruce.
Oh, wait.
George
Can I
George,
record this?
yeah.
Can I record this?
Bush, this is Randy Ferguson. He busted because he was a neighborhood guy.
Yeah.
He didn't, like when he would come home and do gigs at Westbury or something, first thing to the neighborhood, Heaney, Freely, Doc, Eddie Highland, guys like that.
All the buddies from the hood.
Neighborhood guy, man. And he never changed.
And actually, that was part of the whole
So
thing.
you could go anywhere. It would be cool. You know, I'd go to see him like at some hotel or something. But I go here to see him. Oh, here you are.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the dedication of George Carlin Way. Thank you all for being here. I am Kelly Carlin, and I'm very, very happy to be here myself. Thankfully, it looks like the rain event is staying. And yes, we've all been praying to Joe Pesci all day.
Oh, you heard us. Thank you.
And if the rain had come, I would have said, well, I guess he was a little too busy being an asshole on a golf course somewhere. But clearly he got off the course in time to clear the rain for us. Very exciting. If you look this way, towards that big, beautiful cathedral over there, that block over there is the actual block that my father grew up on. The plan was to have the sign on that block. But as we know, the church is on that block. Corpus Christi. And my father and the church had a couple of philosophical differences they couldn't work out. So, of course, that was nothing new, but that's why we're up here. And actually, I'm glad we're up here because the view is quite spectacular. And Dad loved trees, and we get to be near a bunch of trees here today. So, we have a few speakers. I'll be speaking at the end. We've got a few speakers coming up. Come up is City Councilman Mark Levine, who helped us jump through all of the burning flaming hoops that it takes to get a street sign in the city of New York.
Give it up for Kelly Carlin. It means a great deal to us that you're here, Kelly. Why don't you go?
Right here.
There you go. Thank you. I had to say a word first about a man by the name of Kevin Martini. This man spent 3 years, displayed such determination, grit, heart, and if it weren't for his leadership, he wouldn't be here today. Thank you, Kevin. For those of you who don't know, the process of getting a street renamed in New York City is a challenge of epic proportions, full of political and bureaucratic roadblocks. It's really downright Kafka-esque. So the good news, Kevin, is if your stand-up career starts to peter out, you've got a backup in political organizing. I want to tell you why it's so important to me and so many of us here in the community that George be commemorated this way on 121st Street. You really can't understand the life of George Carlin unless you understand the history of Morningside Heights and what this neighborhood was in the 1940s. You really can't understand Morningside Heights and its history unless you understand George Carlin and who he was. This neighborhood was very different back in those days, though. It was a much grittier, hard-scrabble neighborhood, incredibly diverse, vibrant, and no doubt shaped George in many, many ways. You can imagine a scrappy kid, not too big, learning to survive on the streets, using his words and his wit. And there's no doubt that he absorbed the Harlem tradition of speaking truth to power. He used to call this White Harlem, by the way. So I think he absorbed much of the best of this community. George, of course, blazed a trail really defining what artistic freedom should be in the media age, in the broadcast age. He had what can only be called a monogamous relationship with the truth. He said things that we didn't always want to hear, but we needed to hear them. And in the process, he had a bigger impact than a whole lot of politicians out there. I want to close by paying homage to a notorious routine of George in which he identified the 7 words you can't say on TV by telling you the 7 dirty words that you can't say in politics. All right? They are truth, 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 and motherfucker.
That is already happening. We got a politician to say motherfucker. I'd now like to bring up someone who brought to my father boundless joy, laughs, silliness, and love. He had endless nicknames for her, but I know her as Sally, Miss Sally Wade.
When they said they were naming something after George, I thought they meant a drink. That's why I'm here. Well, I guess I'll leave now because he showed me a bar that was down the street. Speaking of the Catholic Church. No, seriously, as you know, probably know, George went to Catholic school. But as you may not know, he kept in touch with a few of the nuns. And they would send him books of poetry, even in the last few months of his life. And marked poems for him to read. So, anyway, I'm glad to cheer everybody up. This is such a fitting honor for him. I know that he really loves this. And it's the best tribute he could have, short of a drink. Named after him, which is not too late to do still. One more thing, I thought I'd read a note that from George about how he felt about New York City. He said, Sally, every time we're in New York, it's like a picnic, the circus, a parade, 2 Super Bowls, and a World Series rolled into one. That's how much George loved being a New Yorker. So, cheers to George and George's way.
Not only is the affront to the church that they're actually putting this straight up, but it got pushed through by a guy named Levine. Now listen.
There is someone actually on Twitter that has the Twitter handle Church of Carlin already, so it's definitely happening. So next up is really the man who made all of this happen. We would not be standing here today if it wasn't for this man. It all started with Kevin having an irritation. No, not that kind. He was really irritated that this neighborhood had not recognized one of its greatest achievements, the making of a legendary comedian. And this irritation grew so big that he began to irritate everyone around him until they all said to him, well, go out and do something about it. And he actually did. So this is actually a great moment of civic action that is happening here, because a man with a vision and went out and did something. So please give Kevin Bartini a warm welcome.
I can't begin to tell you all what a completely surreal experience this is. This all began as an offhanded comment based on a fleeting idea. What followed was a 3-year odyssey, a political campaign, a public battle with the Catholic Church, and now this amazing crowd of comedy fans gathered together. Who knew that so much could come from merely smoking a joint with a friend and talking about comedy? To say that this experience has changed my life is an understatement. I would like to begin by saying publicly that there was not a second of this undertaking that I did not relish, and being the guy to lead this charge was a privilege and an honor. To me, the sign is not only a tribute to George Carlin, this sign is also a long overdue recognition by the city of New York to the contributions and the importance of the comedy community as a whole. With dozens of comedy clubs, scores of bars and back rooms providing comedy on a nightly basis, thousands of comics have worked here, grown here, and helped to establish New York City as the undisputed greatest comedy city in the world. And it is high time that the joy that we bring, the contributions we make, the jobs and the taxes which we generate are finally acknowledged and celebrated. proud member of this comedy community, and I'm proud to be one of the countless journeymen who walk in the immense shadow cast by George Carlin. I discovered George Carlin at the age of 10. I was already a huge fan of stand-up, and I knew that it's what I wanted to do with my life. My uncle turned me on to George by slipping me his copies of Class Clown and Occupation Fool, warning me in a hushed tone, "Don't tell your parents I gave you this." Those two albums blew open the doors of perception in my mind and forever changed who I was and what I thought. You see, at the time, I was a closeted atheist, stuck in Catholic school. I doubted what I was being taught, but I dared not speak out. And hearing this man talk about once being the same kid going through the same things was a revelation. To hear him put into words the thought that I dared not speak, and then to hear hundreds of people laugh, applaud, and agree, it made me feel as though the world was a little less lonely. I know that's corny. It's true. It's totally true. I will tell you that gesture from my uncle to loan me those albums meant more to me than he will ever know. I've tried to carry that on by turning my own nephew onto George Carlin, but unfortunately I have been far less successful. Maybe it's because he doesn't relate to the material. Maybe it's because he has a different sense of humor than me. Maybe it's because he's 2 years old. I'm gonna keep trying, though, I promise. When I became a comedian, I gained an entire new appreciation for George Carlin. The man showed that it was possible to produce quantity without sacrificing quality. Reverence for nothing. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is beyond reproach. He made you laugh and subversively altered the way you saw the world. The genius of George Carlin is that he was able to get a much-needed message to an otherwise, oftentimes, apathetic populace without us realizing that our opinions were even being shaped and changed. You know, I grew up, like so many in the last century, when George Carlin was there for all of us, constantly as a source of laughter and as a voice of reason. And then until all of a sudden he was gone, and then I think we all kind of collectively realized, boy, there's a guy we're really gonna miss. And although I don't believe that he's looking down on us, for the sake of symbolism and theatrics, I'd like to look to the sky over Morningside Heights and think of it as a place, if there was anywhere where his spirit would linger, it would be right here. And I'd just like to say thank you, sir. Thank you for the inspiration to write more and to think deeper. Thank you for being a constant source of laughter and comfort. Thank you for sharing your gift with the rest of us. The human race is better because of it. You've served us all well, and this street sign is a token of our gratitude. From the entire community of people who share a love for you, cheers to you, George Carlin.
Yeah!
It saddens me that Corpus Christi chooses not to celebrate their most prized alumni, that they hope to hide from their current students a man for whom they could learn so much, a man whose curiosity, lifelong quest for knowledge, and unparalleled work ethic are all values that should be ingrained on every child. They claim that their opposition was to protect students from being exposed to dirty words. Just my luck. The one time in 2,000 years that the Catholic Church decides to protect children. You see, it's not the dirty words that they are really afraid of, it's the thoughts. It's George's themes that he so often utilized, like questioning authority, taking nothing at face value, questioning everything. And when you are the church, those messages can be bad for business. So I don't resent them for opposing us. They really did make this whole process a hell of a lot more fun. And a bang-up job they did. Once construction is over, that sign will end up being hung about 75 feet to the right of where we wanted it. So the children are safe. There's no way they'll be able to see that sign from all the way across the street, unless they squint. Not only will the kids see it, but they will know that it's across the street because their principal, their priest, doesn't want them to see it. That plan won't backfire, will it? If there's one thing that I know about kids, that they're never attracted to things simply because the powers that be forbid it. It's like that movie Footloose, where Kevin Bacon and those kids are told by John Lithgow not to dance, so they sit on their hands respectfully. For the next 50 Halloweens, this neighborhood is going to be littered with kids dressed up as Al Sleep, the hippy-dippy weatherman.
But now I want to introduce my father's older brother, the man who terrorized these streets for more than 50 decades, my uncle Patrick Carlin.
Beautiful. This is remote control. This is my friend Kevin, who I finally got to meet and thank. And every one of the people you thank, I'm thanking too. And Kelly, wonderful. I'm looking up here and I'm thinking of George and yesteryear and about the church and all. Let me tell you something. When you get to be an old dude, you become philosophical. Yeah, man. And I looked at that when I first seen it happening, and I said, well, now, wait a minute. What would Jesus do? Rendered it, you know, Caesar gets one side of the coin and the church gets the other. I don't know how they do that. But anyway, I said the church was here first. Therefore, they're okay. Number two, a blessing from my brother, and I know he rooted for this. When my mother moved here, she had delusions of grandeur, you know. This is a girl who gave a box of horse shit to a girl who didn't invite her to a birthday party. She wanted to raise two perfect boys, you know. Got kicked out of goddamn Catholic school for too much bracelets and shit. Well, she wanted us to be cool. So now it comes time here that they're going to put George's name on Broadway. Well, wait a minute. That's what she wanted. We moved to lovely was a big word with her. We moved to this lovely neighborhood and to go hang with Duane, who does his homework. You go down to Amsterdam Avenue and you seek out the Scruffs, the Hagans and the Harnbys. Why can't you emulate these other... And that's the jive that we had to listen to. So Amsterdam Avenue was heaven, man. That's where we shot crap. George used to smoke dope right over there. This was a cool neighborhood, man. And everybody loved one another. We didn't care if you spoke Spanish or whatever you were doing. As long as you were cool, you were cool. And he grew up here and he loved it. And it's right that he get his name up here in the neighborhood, because whenever the dude would come back to New York, or even close to New York, he'd wind up in New York. And he'd go cruising. We'd go through the financial district when nobody's there. You gotta do that, man. You get Heaney and Freely and Doc and George, and they're passing a joint around and cruising through the financial district. It's a wonderful thing. So here is George with his name going on Amsterdam Avenue, which is very fitting. And the church had a good workout of umbrage, you know, to let us know they're still breathing. I gotta tell you, just a personal thing, man. I don't go with atheists any more than I go with biblical Christians. It's all jive. If you're an atheist, you're telling me after you croak that you know for a goddamn fact there ain't no God. Bullshit. You've been there. So forget that. That's as bad as the Christian thing. So I think, and I wrote a book. I'm not plugging this book. This son of a bitch. But I named it Kien fucking Sabe. Because when you ask me what happens next, I'll tell you. I ain't got no idea. I know George is happy with the way things are unrolling. And I'm his brother, so I can say it, man. I think of him in with Mark Twain and Will Rogers. They were playing, oh, the days of the Kerry dancers. When we moved here. So he's happy. And I'm happy. And if I'm happy, that's what counts.
committed to our family and loved us dearly, but he was driven by his craft and his insatiable need to keep conquering uncharted comedy territory every day. But it wasn't always hard being a daughter of a famous funny man either. He'd make me pancakes for dinner, taught me how to ride my bike, and when I was a teenager, he always split ounces of weed with me. He gave me the Carlin DNA of the gift of the gab, a need to speak my mind out loud to the world, and a genuine adoration of fart jokes. These last 6 years since his death, I found that it's not always easy being the daughter taking care of a legacy of a famous funny man. I'm worried about how his memory is living on in the zeitgeist, while the neocon organizations appropriate, twist, and mangle his words to serve their own agenda, while climate change deniers completely misinterpret his piece, "The Planet is Fine," to justify their anti-science stances. And soccer moms blindlessly forward the endless Facebook memes of quotes that sound nothing like my dad. My favorite is, "Life is not measured by the breaths you take, but by the moments that take your breath away." Really? That doesn't sound anything like George Carlin. Wishful thinking, people. But these last 6 years, I've mostly found that it's not been hard being the daughter taking care of the legacy of a famous man. First of all, he left us all a rich and vast body of his work in so many media. There are teenagers across the world making some serious dough on his YouTube videos, but they're also learning who George Carlin is. Then there are the family of comics and comedians and other people of questionable reputation that have embraced me, taken me in, and made me part of their family. I can't tell you how much that has meant to me. But lastly, there are you, the fans. His rabid, crazy, loud, at times a bit too crazy, but always faithful fans. I love you dearly. Your love and your light has kept me sane, keeps my father's memory alive. Thank you so much. And we are now going to pull the little thingy off the side.
Horizontal, not vertical.
Because he stole signs his whole career.
Nice.
So, I don't know what size that bolt is, but get working on it, somebody.
That's going to be an easy one. That'll be an easy one.
Doesn't it look easy? Yeah, it looks really easy.
It's one to... Anyway, congratulations.